All right, so here we are 2 years later after my first wedding, and we were thrown also a big curveball. So we were still learning. Even 2 years later, we're still learning. We were a lot better at this wedding, but you could see us repeating less of the mistakes and getting better. And we also had a little bit of better equipment. So we had picked up a Canon 5D and a 24 to 105, and then we were also using a 28 to 75, if I remember right. Yes, 28 to 75. And gosh, what else were we using? Using anything else? I thought we were using one more lens. We were a little bit better off. And we also brought backups at this point. So we were shooting with, I think we had 3 cameras total. And we had started shooting more weddings. All of this based off our first wedding. People were still hiring us off of that. Which is, if you saw my first wedding, of course, it's like, wow, okay. But this one also threw the curveball of being a rainy wedding. So right off the bat, one of the first photos we take is they're checking the internet for the weather, and you can see they're trying to see what the percentage of chances that they're going to have rain during their ceremony, because their ceremony was outside, and so you can see, yeah, it's a 30% chance, okay, that sounds cool. We were giving people less photos, so 682, which is nice, but much better, right? We're much cleaner on our composition. We're not tilting quite as much. We're telling the story, right? He's checking the weather, and there's the shot of him checking the weather, and we're framing, and we're just doing a better overall job of telling the wedding story, even if we're not perfect yet. Like, he's underexposed. Normally I'd probably clean that up and fix that up. And our white balance is not always perfect. My editing's still not perfect. At this point, I think Lightroom did come out, and I think I was using Lightroom, but it's not nearly as refined as it is now. But you could see us doing a much better job of getting those details, of still sometimes tilting the camera, but still not as much. Getting the story, we were much more focused. We were also a lot closer, if you could tell. If you compare some of our shots with our first wedding, we were a little bit farther away, or we were a little bit too close. This is when we started to learn where we need to be and still get a lot of the story. And remember, some of these locations that you're going to be at are super cramped and super tiny, and you can see how tiny that bathroom is. It's super tiny. You have to go pretty wide to get something like that. Some eyelash, a detailed eyelash, that's kind of cool. And we're looking around, color, we're getting our compositional legs under us and figuring it out. So much fun. And there's the weather again. It kept looming. They kept saying it might rain. And at some point, I think he's calling the reception at this point to find out is if it gets rained outside, can they move it into the reception? Because that was an option. Like, hey, if it's a torrential downpour, we're going to go inside maybe. And then at some point, and these are good, at some point, using mirrors is awesome. Telling the story, at some point they just decide, you know what, we don't care. And we're going to have the wedding outside no matter what. So we were like, okay. So pretty soon they go outside, and they just don't care. They start seeing arriving. Everyone's got an umbrella. There's the groom with an umbrella too. There was a canopy under here at least, so that was good. But there wasn't a lot of space for the people who came to the wedding to be able to find shelter. And we also had to scramble. Our cameras were not weather sealed. So we were not bringing 1D level cameras with us yet. We got those later on. And at this point, we're still using, I think, a Rebel. Yes, a Rebel, and a 5D. The 5D was revolutionary. It was amazing. It changed the way we did our photos. But neither of them, with the lenses we had, were weather sealed. So we had to run and scramble. I think I ran home and got plastic bags to then wrap around our cameras, and we could barely see what we were shooting. And I added that little bit of blur in the editing process, which I think that still holds up. But the editing could have been a little bit better, but still, the colors are better, the edits are better, and everyone is just full on. There's my wife. Everyone's just full on in the rain. Now, this photo is one that I should have probably cleaned up and took my wife out of that. I could have gotten closer. I could have gotten lower. I could have moved a little bit more to my left, whatever. But these are still pretty good. When you compare our first wedding with this, we did a pretty decent job. Now, at this point, I was doing a lot of selective color still. This was fashionable back in the day because people kind of liked it and it was cute. Of course, that doesn't go very well today. Not nearly as well. If you see it, it's very rarely done. But you could also see that our camera, one of our cameras, I think, was fogging up. So you could see this kind of blur, and it didn't really impact the photos too much. I could have cleared it up today a little bit with editing. Some of the cameras or the editing process, you can clean that up a little bit. But back then, I didn't know how to do that. And look, I didn't know what I was doing. Look at tilted and just way too high ISO. Using motion blur, people are running at this point. They're trying to protect the bride from the weather, and at some point they kind of give up. They were so great, and he's emotional. We're capturing a lot of that. You know, I think I would have captured this a little bit more closely. Like I would have zoomed in a little bit more if I was shooting this today, of course. But I didn't have as much. This is only 2 years later, so we didn't have like a ton of the equipment that we have that we would gather later on. And you can see the cult of twisting the camera, tilting the camera. You know, it just adds a visual chaos that I don't like. I wish we would have caught something like this straight on. But, you know, we were doing less of it at least. At the very minimum, you know, some of these awkward crops, that looks like a mistake, but we thought at the time it looked cool. And, you know, they just went on with the wedding. Everybody's wet. And full on right in the rain. And nobody cared. It was actually it was a lot of fun. Especially once we learned our cameras were going to hold up. Even though they're a little foggy, you know, just a quick edit to fix that right now. I won't do it right now, but quick edit to fix. Here's a foggy one. And I thought it looked so old school, like those old foggy, you know, the back in the day. And so I added the film edges to kind of add that look to it too. I like that look. This is one of those ones I shouldn't have cropped the bottom of the foot off. I should have been a little bit farther back, but this is a really nice shot with the hands meeting right in the middle on the little girl, which is beautiful. And, you know, that's a good shot, but it would have been better not tilted. Oh, how much fun is that? Drenched in rain and holding the dress, and at this point, you know, nobody really even cares. So much fun. They're just laughing. It was a really fun time, even if it was a little stressful. So yeah, we were able to do it. We were able to capture this, and the portraits are still a lot of fun. You know, even though you have your umbrella and everybody's kind of wet, it's still like pretty amazing. And then afterwards, we had a lot of fun with the portraits, and you could see just 2 years later how much better we were. So we tried these kind of shots in that first wedding and failed miserably, and you know, and here they worked pretty well. Not too bad. Oh, and she lost her tooth. That's her tooth. She lost it, like, I think during the wedding, if I remember. I can't remember. But that was like, everybody said that was a lucky thing. But we didn't have very many places to take the bride and groom portraits. We were at their house. And so we just went in the front yard. And we did a decent job, right? I was really into the film edges at that point. You know, we got close and cut out the background and focused on little moments between them, holding hands. There's her lost tooth right there. Kind of fun. They'll remember that forever, right? Yeah, some of these are pretty good, right? I liked it. So we'd have them look off or look at the other photographer, and then one of us, my wife or I, would get the other shots. So we were able to get both. Now that's one idea that didn't quite work out. Hey, bend backwards. And, I don't know. At the time, I thought it was maybe cool, but it's a little just tough now, right? But a lot of these details are nice. I like some of these. I wish I would have got more of the bottom part. And so then we rush over to the reception. And at this point, I'm getting better at using flash. And so I'm changing the angle of where the flash is hitting the wall and bouncing back into the cake, and just doing a lot better at using my flash that I didn't know how to use that first wedding. And I think if you look at these versus the other one, I'm drastically better. Here we are still angling too much. Super wide angle, though it's kind of works with the funky angle, but it was clearing up, of course, for the reception when we didn't need it. Slowing down the shutter. And indoors, we still struggle a little bit, a little grainy. You know, you can see our camera's still struggling. But remember, I mean, if you get this, if you get that emotion, you know, if I would have been a better editor, I could have probably saved this a little bit more. If you're getting the emotion and you're nailing that, yeah, look at that. That's much better already. Not quite. And you're nailing it. That's just a quick edit. I would normally maybe you probably use curves or something. If you're able to get those edits or get those moments, yeah, that's much better. The client loves that stuff. I mean, that's what my wife and I sold the clients on. That's what we told them we were going to do, and we were able to start getting it probably right around this time. You can see a lot of emotional shots in these photos. We're really focusing on that. We're a lot better at our flash use. They're clear. I know I'm having more confidence with my shutter, aperture, ISO, and just how everything's going to work out. Even at the dance, we're getting much better shots. I don't know why I have 3 versions of that. I have no idea. But we're much better. We're closer. We're not destroying the photos with slow shutter. And we're also able to experiment a little bit. Dragging the shutter, that's too much, but it's still kind of cool, right? Especially the look she's giving them. It's great. Wide angle, too grainy, but that was the nature of our cameras. Did I set up a light? No, that was the DJ's light. That's right. That was before I started setting up lights. But these are much better. So just 2 years later, a drastic improvement in where we were as photographers. You know, like that's a pretty good one. That's a decent one. Much better overall. Oh, here's the album that we gave them. We were creating storytelling albums. That's where some of the frames were from. The film frames to kind of make a little bit of a difference in the album. I like that shot still to this day. That's a cool crop. I like the color here. So yeah, you could see us getting much better within 2 years.